Hi, I'm Mitch. I'm a UI designer at Esri. I work on ArcGIS Online. And this is my colleague Alex. He can introduce himself.
Hi, my name is Alex Smales, UX architect, and I work a lot on Esri.com.
So we're doing a workshop today on collaborative brainstorming. The slide says that. So at any point, if you have any questions, you can ask questions. We'll also hang out a little bit afterwards if you want to ask specific questions about how we do this at Esri. Looking forward to it. So the first thing is a little bit of a definition. So this is taken from this guy Alex Osborne's book on brainstorming that he wrote in the 40s. Kind of sounds like it was written in the 40s, but it's a conference technique by which a group attempts to find a solution to a specific problem by amassing all the ideas spontaneously by its members. I highlighted the word specific because if you ever find yourself in a meeting and you get bogged down in arguments or just not feeling like there's not enough progress, it's probably because the problem isn't specific enough. That's a common problem. Alex Osborne's 4 rules for brainstorming were defer judgment, encourage wild ideas, build on the ideas of others, and go for quantity. So defer judgment meaning like if somebody says we should put like pink unicorns all over everything, you shouldn't judge them right away. Should like listen, hear them out and say and see what they were trying to do with that idea, where they were trying to go with it, and build on it. Encourage wild ideas. We don't want to think about production limitations at this point in brainstorming because that can often put you in a box. And the point of brainstorming is to find creative solutions that you couldn't come up with on your own. And then building on the ideas of others, kind of like similar to the deferred judgment thing, you don't want to shut people down. You want to build on what they're saying. So like try to get to the point of what they're saying and help move the whole group forward in that way. And then go for quantity. Quantity is important. There's a lot of good ideas, but they weren't usually the first idea. Takes iterations. Design is always about iterations. So there's this company, IDEO, in Palo Alto that does this stuff. It's been doing this kind of stuff since the 90s, like talking about how to work as teams on design problems. And they added 3 things to Alex's initial list. One is stay on the topic, because if you're off topic, you're not going to go anywhere. It can just derail the whole effort. Let people talk. Like don't talk over people. So one conversation at a time. That's really important because people's feelings get hurt if you talk over them all the time. And then I think the most interesting one is be visual. So you can brainstorm with words, but it's really easy to come up with like great solutions in words that don't actually work because they're not limited by they're only limited by ideas and not limited by like actual like making a thing. So drawing is really good, and you don't have to be good at drawing. No one has to be good at drawing. I'm really bad at drawing personally, but being visual is really important.
And so today, we would like to introduce the design studio method. It's a type of brainstorming that gets equal input from every team member. It's ideal for bringing together people from varied backgrounds and different perspectives. It helps with the team collaborate and focus on products and individual features. It's a little bit more structured than other methods, but that's okay. By embracing the constraints of limited time, you start getting to ideas and decisions really quickly. And so why use the Design Studio? We've all been in those Mad Men meetings that are supposedly creative, and they go on for hours, and they produce very little of value. Design studios help by fostering a sense of shared ownership. Because it accommodates everyone's point of view, they really feel as if they've contributed to a part of the end product. Getting consensus over key ideas, decisions, or even minutiae interactions. This forces the team to move forward as a single unit towards an end goal. And uncovering hidden requirements. You know those projects when you suddenly get dumped a bunch of unknown requests at the last minute? Because Design Studio gets people involved earlier on, there's less room for surprises and magical requests a week before the launch. And so today, we are going to get you to do a Design Studio. How's that sound? We're going to break you up into groups. We're going to give you a design problem to solve, give you a design brief, and you'll use the Design Studio method to get started. Sound terrifying? Don't worry. Mitch is going to walk you through every step of the way, and I'll walk around and help things get going as well.
OK, so if you can take a minute and maybe come up with the people around you, 4 to 6. 6 is like the absolute max, because it's going to go really fast. So.
Are you doing the? You're not doing the teammates with ties thing, right?
So what?
You're not doing teammates with ties throwing in stuff. You just no.
You can talk to it. Can you pass out paper?
There's a banana.
Little pens? There's not going to be enough.
You guys got Sharpies and pens and stuff? You need anything? Sure. There's a stack of paper as well. You guys need pens or anything?
Are you all in your groups? Whoa, that's bright.
Sketch an idea. That's good. This group here?
Yep.
You need any pens or anything? Sharpie? Yep. Stack of paper. There's another group here?
I'm grab like.
Everyone have pens and everything?
There you go.
Got a pen or a banana? There's another group here? Yeah? You need any pens or anything? Oh, you could have got the Sharpie. That was a good one.
More of a pen guy.
You alright? You alright for pens?
Wait, what do you think? You get it. I'm going to talk to you about it, for sure. I was just making sure everybody had
paper?
stuff to
Pens?
write on. If you need more paper in the process,
Paper,
I
pens?
will
You're good?
try to provide more paper. We have a little bit left. So
What's everyone doing for pens?
the objective that we're going to
Got enough
have
paper?
for this design studio is to design a self-guided tour app that explores Palm Springs historic
Paper,
modernist
pen,
architecture.
banana?
So we're going to pretend that that we're part of the Palm Springs Tourist Development Agency. I don't think that's a real thing, but we're going to pretend it is. And we're going to have some background that we'll pass out as well about the kinds of users that we are designing for. And I'll talk about that in a sec. Any questions about this design task? Is it specific enough? Okay. So this is an overview of the design studio process, and like I said, this is like a pretty structured process, unlike some like really willy-nilly brainstorming sessions. The process is well timed out, and it's designed to make sure that everybody's voice gets heard. And we do this at Esri pretty frequently, especially at the beginning stages of a project or a feature. And it lets us get sort of input from various stakeholders. We try to bring in people from different departments. We'll try to get product marketing. We'll try to get development, engineering, like everybody in one room together. And that helps us kind of get a better understanding of what everybody's shared expectations are for a new thing. Because if you don't get that up front, you have to fight those battles later on, and that can be challenging. So the first step is illuminate, and these are all like jargony words because this is a thing. This is what they're called. I'll explain what each one is. So illuminate is reviewing the content, reviewing the requirements, and reviewing any research that's been done about who the feature, product or feature is for. And then sketch is what it sounds like, sketching. So everybody sketches for a certain amount of time in awkward silence, preferably. And then we do this thing called present and critique. So present is each person who did a sketch shares the sketch to the other people who did sketches, and then receive constructive feedback about what those sketches are or what those ideas were. And then you do it again. So you don't want to ever do it once. You can do it as many times as you want, but once is not enough. Because usually your first ideas are all going to suck. And then the second ideas will get a little better. Third ideas will get a little bit more refined, and so on. So this whole process can take as long as you need it to. I've typically done them like 2-hour sessions, like 2-hour meetings. You can do them in an hour. It's pretty fast. There are people at Esri who have done a similar process to this for like a day, and by the end, like come up with an actual, like actionable, like product plan. So that's a pretty intense version of this. And then summarize is really important too, but it's sort of the last step. So once you've got all of these ideas on the table, somebody has to be responsible for like putting all of that together and coming up with the direction, right? So that's at Esri, typically that's usually been the job of either myself or a UX designer, and then reviewed with key stakeholders to make sure that everything is kosher. So that's where we go from there. Any questions about this overall workflow? So the first step is illuminate. So we're going to review the problem as a group and discuss the personas and objectives. So you just received little packets with 2 users on them, and we call those personas. They're basically just examples of the types of users we expect might use this product. And they should be, these ones are kind of made up, but they should be in reality derived from real research, and not like, don't make up your personas in real life, because that doesn't benefit anybody, because you'll find that the market that you were targeting doesn't exist. Any questions about this? So we're going to do this as a group. It's going to be 5 minutes. This blue line is like a timer. So like when it goes down and there's no more blue line, then time is up. And we don't have any extra time to give anybody. So it's going to go really fast. So you have 5 minutes to sketch what you think this tour guide app should do. And then we'll move on to the next step. Does that make sense? Yes.
Okay, so back to sketch. Is
Yes.
that like a wireframe type thing, or what do you do?
This is illuminate. So actually, take 5 minutes. Sorry, I got totally ahead of myself. Take 5 minutes to review the personas as a group. Discuss the personas that you received. All right. Ready, time, go now. Time is up. All right, we got to move on. So the next step is sketch. This is individually. So there are types of brainstorming where you can like sketch as a group, like whiteboarding, for instance, is usually done as a group. But in this method, we're going to do it individually. And we're only going to have 8 minutes, which is really not enough time. But we only have an hour for this workshop, so that's going to happen. And then we want to go for quantity. So don't worry too much about not being able to draw, unless you are a good artist, and then care, I guess. But if you don't, then don't. So this is a screenshot of like an actual sketch that one of my engineers came up with kind of a long time ago now. But this is kind of the level of detail that we shoot for in like a real session. It's not, there's some words. He's not supposed to use words, but he did. He cheated. But we don't want, so we don't necessarily want to get all of the detail in. We just want to get the broad strokes of the idea, enough to like share with our teammates, right? Because the next step will be presenting. So any questions about this? Yeah.
Can you write words on what stuff? Or?
Oh yeah, sure. It's not that strict. No one's gonna like.
We can write it.
All right. So we have 8 minutes. Go for quantity. Do as many as you can. I hope you all have writing utensils because we don't have any more. Ready? Time starts now. So how'd that go? Was that pretty good? Great. The next step is even like faster. These just get faster. The present step. Normally you would take as long as it needs to take to present your ideas because we want to be respectful to each other's ideas. But in this case, since we don't have much time, we're going to present all of your team members' ideas in 2 minutes. So maybe each of you just like pick like the most important thing that you came up with in your sketches and share that with your team member, and that's probably all we'll have time with. Any questions? So yeah, don't talk over each other. Let each other like do your thing, and then we'll move on. Ready, set, go. So it's been about 2 minutes. So the next thing that I want you guys to do is provide constructive feedback on people's ideas. So when I mean constructive, I mean like don't say like an idea is like that's a terrible idea that's never going to work. Maybe give them some input of how they could make their idea better, or pick out the things that you like in an idea, because we're going to do this whole thing again, and all of that can inform your next iteration. So that's the useful part of this iteration. So any questions on critique? All right, we're going to start. Ready? Go. That's also 2 minutes, by the way. All right, that's all we have time for. Stop having fun. So what we just did was sketch, present, and critique all together in a row, and that was one iteration. Like presumably, like you guys each have like a design that has some direction forward, or like maybe things you don't want actually. Like that might have been a good idea, but like let's table that for now. But to really like start finessing those ideas, we got to do it again. So we're going to do steps 2 through 4 again: sketch, present, and critique. Starting with sketch. So hopefully you guys have paper. I have a little bit of paper left.
When you guys do it, you write over your old sketches?
Sometimes, yeah. No, I mean it's up to you. I don't usually keep the sketches like afterwards. So if you want to like completely add to your old idea, you can keep using the same sketch. You can throw away that idea, start over again. You can steal your teammate's idea and use their idea and like expand on that. That's actually sometimes where the best ideas come from. Stealing is okay. Who knew? So yeah, does that answer your question? Okay. So we're gonna yeah.
Question, this is non-collaborative sketching or collaborative sketching?
this is non-collaborative sketching still. Collaborative brainstorming, but non-collaborative sketching. All right, so we're going to do sketch again. We'll have another 8 minutes for this. So yeah, have fun. And I'll play awkward music again. Thanks, Sinatra. Okay, so that was sketch. Hopefully that went even easier than the first time round. The next step we're actually going to do together, present and critique, and it's just because we don't have that much time. So 2 minutes for present, 2 minutes for critique. You guys can do it in whatever order you want. So like you can have each person present and then everybody critique after that person, or you can have everybody present and then just discuss it as a group after for your critique. You can do either way. It's up to you. If you do the first method, you're not going to get through everybody, but you probably won't get through everybody anyway, so it's okay. Any questions? All right, time starts now, 4 minutes total. All right, time's up. So the final step, you guys actually, you did it. This is the last step. It's exciting. The final step is summarize. Sometimes this can be called synthesize as well, but summarize. So this is like where we stop and decide which design direction to move forward with. That's like a very simplified version of what actually happens, because sometimes the summarize step happens like after the studio, and there's still some back and forth. But as a group, take 5 minutes and come up with like a plan, essentially. Does that make sense? What's the app going to be? It could be one person's design. It could be a combination of two people's designs. It could be none of your guys' designs because you all just collectively decide that all of our ideas are lame. In which case, have some self-esteem. But yeah, so any questions on that? All right. Let's start now. So how was that? You guys come up with like amazing next generation? Too hectic? Yeah, I mean it does, well, especially when you try to cram it into this short amount of time, it's going to be pretty hectic. Like I said, I wouldn't plan one of these with my team if I didn't have 2 hours at least to like spend on it. But this is just to give you an idea of like the process for the methodology. But that said, I'm sure you guys have like amazing designs already. So what do you do with this? This is kind of the next steps. So at this point, you've invited everybody to the table. There's developers in the room, there's stakeholders in the room, there's designers in the room, there's marketing people in the room. At this point, like you want to sort of break apart and do your individual jobs, essentially. So based on the ideas that we came up with, they need to be validated against like what's technically feasible. So like research spikes for developers. You know, the CTO might need to like define a roadmap or something. I don't know what that means, but the designers will go away and start doing wireframes, and then there's still more iteration that happens with that. The UI designers like myself will go and start, well, once the wireframes are in place, we'll start designing the high fidelity mockups and specs and start working with developers to create the UI. And you know, then you ship it, I guess, at the end of the day. So the rest of the process, essentially.
What are research spikes?
Research spike is just like if there's this new idea for a feature and you think you want to use this particular technology, but we don't know if it works with our current system. Like we don't know, there's a lot of unknowns. So this is usually something a developer will do, go away and like report back, essentially, will this work? There's probably more to it than that, but I'm not a developer, so please forgive me.
So something that was really interesting for me was obviously a conference room with a row of chairs isn't the most creative space in the world. But what you guys did was suddenly start inverting in on each other with your groups. And the level of conversation and interaction was really amazing to watch. And I think that just proves that you don't need this amazing design space in San Francisco or Portland. Don't you go guys down there? you can turn any office space into a collaborative workspace, and you guys proved that today. So well done. That was great.
So we have 2 minutes left, which is pretty great. But I wanted to give somebody an opportunity to present your design if you want. If it goes over, if more than one people want to present, feel free to leave and do what you got to do. But does anybody want to tell us what you came up with? You do?
Yeah, they want to ship something.
Yeah.
Ready for marketplace.
You can stand up where you are, or we can bring the mic to you. Yeah. I mean, that's really amazing because that's an actionable app. There are specific things for people to start working on, and I mean that's the point of this. You didn't have anything to start with before we did this, so that's awesome. Good work.
The guys in the back want to have something?
That's really great. I love that you considered the personas in that. You really took the extreme personas. They were extreme for a reason because they have very different requirements, and you consider those through the whole process. That's really great. And I would use that app probably. So I'll wait for it in the App Store. So real quick while we're wrapping up, we have a couple more workshop session type things tomorrow. So this was collaborative brainstorming. We have a session from my colleague Alan, who's talking about customizing the ArcGIS API for JavaScript widgets. So that's pretty interesting if you use the JS API. And then tomorrow at 8:30, there's an accessible web mapping apps workshop from our colleague Tao. And that's really interesting if you do anything that requires accessible anything. So go to that if you're around. And then at 10 o'clock tomorrow, we have DIY usability testing, which is also a really good way to learn about user research, usability, validating products with usability testing. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.